my name is Rachael Nobbs. I'm a freelance EFL trainer, content editor, and learning designer. In this video, we're going to focus on how to teach the present perfect. So that's the tense that uses a subject plus have or has and a past participle or the third form of the verb. For example, I've eaten, or she has worked, or we've done. So what is the present perfect tense? Well, the present perfect is a present tense with the perfect aspect. So this means that the perspective of the speaker is the present, that's the time, but about something that happened at some point before now. For example, think of the sentence, I've lost my keys. As you can see in the timeline, the speaker is telling us something that's important now, but which happens before now. When it happens is not important. Here, the result of the action is still relevant. The speaker doesn't have her keys. Or in the sentence, I've been to England, the speaker is talking about a past experience, but is sharing it now. The exact time isn't important, just the fact that it happened at some point in their life before now. If we change the time reference, which was the present, we have to change the verb form. So before I went to London, we're now in the past, I had never been to England. We've changed the time reference to the past, still with the perfect aspect. So we're looking back from the past moment and we need the past perfect instead of the present perfect. Now, higher learners might benefit from focusing on tense and aspect and seeing this kind of overview. This could be in a guided discovery approach. That's one where learners look for patterns and they try to work out rules based on prompts or questions to guide them. However, at lower levels, and especially when meeting the tense for the first time, it would be a good idea to separate some different uses into different lessons. So now let's take a look at three main uses of the present perfect. So we've already seen the present perfect to talk about experiences in our lives, as you can see from these examples. So points to note here are we often use the adverbs ever in questions and never in negatives with this usage. And notice here that we're talking about unfinished time in our lives. If we change the time reference to include a specific finished time, we can't use the present perfect. And here's an example with last year and the past simple. We've also seen the present perfect to talk about past actions that have an effect on the present, like I've lost my keys. Where are they now? Or we haven't done our homework. We're sorry to tell you this now. And news also fits here. But we also have situations that started in the past and continue to the present. Like, I've known my best friend for 10 years. And this usage is quite different from the others. So let's take a look at another timeline. We can see that we use this form with for, since, or how long in sentences like, I've worked at this company for 10 years, or how long have you lived here? I would definitely recommend teaching this usage in a separate lesson and maybe comparing the present perfect simple with the present perfect continuous. That's the form that uses have or has plus been and a verb with ing. We use the present perfect simple to focus on situations that started in the past and still continue, like I've been in this class for 6 months, versus the present perfect continuous for ongoing actions, like I've been playing tennis since I was a child. Now, there are other differences between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous, but a good place to start is looking at the present perfect simple for ongoing situations. Now, let's look at some tips for the classroom. Firstly, choose a context where the language is naturally used. For example, job interviews to talk about experience or personal achievements, an encounter with an old friend to practice sharing news, meeting to practice giving updates, TV news to talk about recent actions that are relevant or important now. It's a good idea to contrast the present perfect with another tense, especially the past simple. Use timelines and concept-checking questions to check your learners understand. Focus on the meaning using the context and then on the form. Don't forget the pronunciation when you look at the form, especially weak forms that can be difficult to hear or pronounce. And here's the form with the stressed words underlined. Give your learners meaningful practice and make sure they have the chance to experiment with the language and gauge their own understanding by practicing. There are many approaches to teaching a tense, like PPP, that's presentation, practice and production, task-based learning, guided discovery. Now we're going to look at one popular method, that's test, teach, test, with a practical idea for a lesson based on one use of the present perfect. Let's start with the test part. Ask the learners to talk about some interesting, unusual, or exciting experiences that have happened in their lives. Listen to how they use the present perfect, but don't really focus on it at the moment. Now the teach part. Now we want to focus on the meaning by using one of the sentences that your learners have produced. Maybe something like this: I've met Taylor Swift. So now we can check for understanding by using some concept-checking questions. And here are some examples. Did this happen before now? Yes. Has it finished? Yes. Do we know when it happened? No. And is the exact time important? No. And is the person who had this experience still alive? Yes. So this allows us to hone in on the idea that it happened in this person's life, which is unfinished time. So we're talking about a life experience. When it happened is not important. Use a timeline here to make it crystal clear. Next, see if your learners have any questions for the person who had this experience. Taylor Swift asked questions. For example, when did you meet her? Or what did you say to her? Or was she nice? Elicit the fact that now that we've established that this is a past event, we now put ourselves in the past. So we use the past simple to give or ask for more details. Again, we can use a timeline. That was the teach part. Now for the other test part. Your learners could now imagine they're going to interview a famous person about their life experiences. They prepare some interview questions for another pair, and then they regroup and they practice asking and answering each other's questions. The interviewee can use real information if they like, or they can make something up. There are bound to be some mistakes, but use this for further feedback and clarification. So after this activity, your learners should now have some information about someone in their group, about their fictional lives. Next, a homework task could be to write a mini article about this person. You could give them a sentence starter like this, which encourages them to use the present perfect and also the past simple. So that was a look at how to teach the present perfect. Remember, it's a big area and some uses may be harder for your learners to grasp than others. So step-by-step approach helps. Real-life context, meaningful practice, and contrasting with other tenses are key to helping your learners understand and use the present perfect effectively. And for more teaching tips and activities, be sure to check out the other videos in TESOL's How to Teach English series. Happy teaching!